Okay, well, the first question that I always ask people is, why do you want this job?
You know, the beauty of being the last person on your list is that I've watched everybody's video and I see the consistency of that question. And it's been interesting to see everybody's, my colleagues' response to that. And what I will say is, what a fantastic job. I love this job, the notion of this job. Why? Well, it has a lot to do with the family I was raised in. We were community service people benefiting the community. My grandparents and parents owned a funeral home, and us 5 children worked in the funeral home growing up. So being of service to people in crisis was taught pretty early on, and it just kind of extended from there. So my entire life I've been preparing for this job because every effort along the way has been the political is personal, politics is local in all the communities I've lived in. And I've lived many, many places. I've lived in, after Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from, Washington, D.C., California, then up in Alaska, and back here to Washington finally. With great intentionality, I moved my young family here because of this amazing community that we have here. I'm not kidding you. I had lived in many places. I had been involved in many community events and organizations. I watched politics happen. I mean, honestly, it began in grade school. My relatives, my Uncle Mike was the councilman. He died young. My Aunt Mary was the councilwoman. When she passed, her son Matt was the councilman. This is my neighborhood, so I was always working their campaigns as a child. Then my English and drama teacher in high school, no kidding, becomes the Congresswoman of Ohio, engaging all her students in activism, getting involved in politics, getting the vote out. So, that got me with her to Washington, D.C. Are you kidding me? The pinnacle of American politics. There I was, this little lowly researcher. I'm a sociologist and a researcher. There I was, sitting with Bella Abzug, Margaret Heckler, Shirley Chisholm, Geraldine Ferrara. And I was this little intern for at that time it was called the Congresswomen's Caucus. Now it's called the Congressional Caucus on Women's Issues. And I met them all. Bella Abzug became a friend then, and I'm still friends with her daughter now, Liz Abzug. So I'm kind of like, I have pictures with Gloria Steinem. I have pictures with all of them. Ann Richards invited her up to Alaska to visit with us when she was governor. Tried to give that, we could have some women in politics. Alaska didn't have many women in politics when I was there in the 80s. And so I brought Ann Richards up. But guess what they did? They were inspired then to get Sarah Palin. Are you kidding me? So Alaska was a lot of disappointment, a lot of struggle. That's where I had my 30-year market research company. And mostly what I did there to prepare myself for this work is get involved with the native corporations there. And they did work all over the world. And so my market research company did work all over the world. And so this job is about being very pragmatic, about learning about all these intense topics that are so complicated, and about trying to help people come together and be part of the decisions. I mean, the way I see it is it's the city, there's the city departments, there's the city council, and there's the mayor. And there needs to be we're the people side of that scenario. So, it's been pandemic. We've gotten out of touch with each other. We don't know how to be together. So I would love this job to bring people back in the room together, to start to engage in some of these very complicated issues that, honestly, we have a lot of research. I've been studying everything. We have a lot of research on everything. Now it's a time of action and the how to and the what to. And I think that's what you will see from me in the next couple months.
In terms of bringing people into it, what do you think are the best ways that people can get involved. There seems to be people who don't really, agree on that or know how to take the first steps.
Well, there are things happening that you could just drop into, by having a personal interest. When someone says to me, I'm interested in this or that, I explain, well, there's this group working on that over in South Park, or there's this group working on that over in Georgetown. People talk to me about downtown, I say, yeah, we need to get over to Pioneer Square. We need to talk to some of the businesses there. We need to talk to some of the arts groups there. So it starts to become something where groups of people about, interests that they have start to gather. And then it's like, how do we do it? And we haven't done it. Again, we haven't done it in so long. I was thinking the other day, I was at one of the existing council members' announcement that she was running again. And there was a room full of people. And it was over in Columbia City, and I thought, wow, what an opportunity here. Here's like maybe 50 to 100 people. If this was my room, I would have first said, hey, everybody, meet that person next to you if you don't know them already. We're the people out here involved in politics. Meet somebody right now. Introduce yourself. Say hello. I would have taken some questions from the floor. I would have engaged. Teach us again how to be together, how to talk to each other, how to be comfortable with each other in a room. What I saw was people, standing up there talking heads. I don't work that way. That is politics as usual is very boring to me. I want things to be lively and exciting and fun and engaging. And, it's been pandemic. And so I feel for all of us. I'm giving everybody grace that, not our fault. But now we have to get back to work.
There is a lot of mundanity, if you will, in the city work, though. Nuts and bolts, and running the city and so forth and so on. So, what's your thoughts about that part of the job?
The nuts and bolts. That's interesting. I would do things differently, because again, as I was saying, we've got the departments, we've got the council, we've got the mayor. Why, like for the budget, don't the departments bring that first to the council members? The council members spend some time with the constituents, with the vested interest groups that might be involved in some of these department activities, to start sort of a swell of information and connections and access. And then the information goes to the mayor. And then they can decide. But now they've got so much more input to some of these very important decisions. And the way it's happening right now, I don't know where the people part is. And, honestly, through pandemic, it's been rough for our city council. I mean, literally, I was over at the meeting this week, not kidding, Tuesday, April 25th. I came in, I had to go to the ladies' room. By the time I went to the bathroom, the meeting was over. It was 2:20. I was like, wow, what the heck? And to their credit, some of the committees that I've attended are a little more involved, and there's some people there. But the council, and I know how it's working. In the old days, they had that big hallway, and they'd meet in the hallway, and they'd talk about things, and there'd be the side visits and the happenstance of conversations. With pandemic, everybody's on the screen. There's really not much interaction with the council members, and then they're giving their reports, and then it's over. And I think that has to change. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur and a business owner, and it's all about customer service. So it's all about service to the residents. I mean, it really is for me. It's like we've got to get back to work for the people. And, again, hasn't been our fault. It's been pandemic. But when I go to Municipal Tower now, it's like a graveyard. There's nobody in that building. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Where are the people? We have to start working for the people again. And, it's not easy to get these things going, and we've, had a lot of reports and things done during the pandemic, and I'm, studying them as I do as a researcher. And I do believe that the best approach, would be what I heard from other sitting council members. I actually interviewed them, just some of them that had sat in this seat specifically, and some of them that have been on the council. And it's very fun and interesting to hear what they had to say. For instance, Sally Clark. The nicest person wins, Jean. Be nice. I'm like, okay, I got that one, Sally. That was excellent. Really, the crux of her conversation. And then Nick Licata. He was amazing. He actually knows my family from Ohio, from Cleveland, the Zones. And he was saying, very thoughtful, very curious, more of a person that has for 6 terms he ran, thought about a lot of these issues. And, the message I took away from him was ATE, accountability, transparency, and efficiency. And those are naturals for me because, again, I'm a researcher. I'm a sociologist. Those are how I have done my life's work. I've only been a researcher. I had my own company. I was trying to solve problems for businesses all over the world, literally, and all over different types of products and services and industries. When you worked as I did, it wasn't on one topic. Someone will say they're a healthcare researcher or, an airline researcher. I did all of them. And, it's always been interesting to me when people come to me as, recently Swedish did, and they said to me, Jean, we've got to study the trans issue. I'm like, yes, that's very important. I said, what do you want to do in your study? Well, we want you to tell us what questions to ask trans people. I said, well, honestly, I'm not trans, and while I am a researcher that understands questions, I believe this is more qualitative, which is we're exploring what are trans people experiencing as patients in your hospitals. So we need to first get to trans people and ask them about their experiences. Then I can do a survey for you. So things right now, they've gone to the survey, when in reality we're more in exploratory, kind of like infancy phases of trying to understand these complicated issues. And so that's just like an example of what I have dealt with in my research business. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of complicated issues, even though, certainly it sounds like, you would do a lot more research and, exploration before deciding, on policies and so forth. Mm-hmm. But you have to have some thoughts about some of the ones that are really, racking things currently. I could, probably 3 or 4 of them. But homelessness in particular.
Of course. Huge for all of us. I mean, we are leading in the country, and when I look at a topic like that, I'm like, we have such responsibility in Washington and in Seattle because the country is watching us. We are among the top 3, and so everybody's like, what are they doing? How are they doing? What is their plan? Well, we have the Regional Homeless Agency, and we are trying to, together, make some things happen that we have knowledge of through research that has been done. I mean, I don't know how much more research we need to do because I'm finding so much research that I think it is time to start acting on some of that research knowledge. And so what is some of these reports? Like I was reading a McKinsey report the other day, and it's like, what do they say? They say that it's all about affordable housing, that there just is not enough housing for people experiencing homelessness. So I say, okay, so who are those people? So then I dive into the statistics a little further, and I learn that 95% of people who are, experiencing displacement are at the AMI of 30%, and that number is they make $23,000 a year. Can anybody live on $23,000 a year? So how do we, and now let's take that into the housing arena. Well, their rent then would have to be $600 a month. I mean, keep doing the numbers, people. It doesn't make sense. So we have this influx of people. We come here for work opportunity and to make more money. This is our dream place to come, Seattle, Washington. And then we can't find the housing. And then the housing is too expensive for us to be able to live here, and so we migrate, and we are looking, and we can't find anything that comes together for us to pull our families, to keep, pull our whole package together of moving here. I mean, I think for myself, when I came from Alaska in 2006, what I was noticing was the crash was coming there. I literally was studying and watching all the economic indicators. And honestly, if anybody looks at Alaska right now, it is the lowest of every economic indicator for the country. Of the 50 states, the bottom. In health, in education, in well-being, in all of them. And I look at these kind of things, and I'm like trying to understand what will happen next year. Well, we have probably a recession coming again, right? The crash happened in Alaska when I left in 2008. It happened. I saw the statistics coming. We're probably going to be having a recession here. And so what do I know about here? More resilience, more big business, more opportunities. In other places I've lived, they haven't had the panoramic opportunities that we have here. So we have so much more going for us. In our communities, we have so much going for us, and then in our city as a whole. So when we have hard times, when things will become challenging, we can weather it because we are that much more vibrant. And that is why I intentionally moved my young family here, because I saw that and I believed that about this place. And so it is, the housing, we understand, we need more of it. And so how much more do we need? You won't ask about numbers. Well, the 2018 study I saw said probably 13,000 more affordable houses were needed. Wow. Well, now it's probably about 40,000. And so the numbers keep rising exponentially. And so how do we solve that? Where's the infrastructure? What are the designs? What are the community, where are the community density issues? How do we solve this? I mean, can we pull it together like some other states that I've lived in have? I'll give you an example. Cleveland at one point was dying. And all of a sudden I started getting the things from all my relatives back there. The turnaround city, where all the sweatshirts came and the t-shirts and the signs. Honestly, I have a poster from my mother for that time. And it was like, wow, what did they do? Cleveland's doing pretty well. What did they do? They moved a lot of housing downtown. I think it's a no-brainer to move housing into Pioneer Square. We've got to do it properly and effectively, but wow, we're Pioneer Square now, District 1. There's a lot of possibilities there. We're on the border of downtown, so we can engage with the arts and small business, and there's tremendous opportunity in my vision for Pioneer Square and how it is revitalized. And I know businesses there. I'm really good friends with Cafe Umbria's owner, and I know that some of the RT places that are down there. And they're committed. They're not going anywhere. There are problems there, but they are solid participants in Pioneer Square. And, we've lost a lot of the restaurants down there and stuff, but honestly, during sporting events, that place is hopping. Everybody walks there to eat and walks back. So, there's times when I see its vibrancy, and I believe it will come back because of who we are and how inspired we can make each other.
Some call it an offshoot problem at the moment, though. It's particularly dominating debate. What do you think about the current debate over criminalizing drug use or drug possession?
Yes, I was just hearing about that. They didn't change the law in Olympia, so now it goes to the states and the cities to deal with. And so, possession versus use is the big conversation. So use, it seems to me that it would never really happen. Why? You've got a destitute person sitting there shooting up fentanyl. Do we have police to go manage that situation? We don't now. You think we're going to then, go arrest him? So, you know, the mayor's going after it for the dealers. I think that's a right approach. I don't know about some of these other ideas of giving people some gift cards and stuff, where that came from. I'd be curious to understand that. But places, like I was saying, like Cleveland, have tried to revitalize their city, have had similar problems in their downtowns, and we need to look to what they did. And again, what they did is they brought housing into those communities. We bring people back there who are living there. Then we also supply the services of groceries and you know, childcare. Childcare. Let's talk about childcare. Wow, right? Our pro tem Senator Patty Murray yesterday said, childcare crisis. I could not agree with her more. It's on my website. Childcare is essential for parents trying to go to work. I mean, it's just, I can't believe we haven't cracked that nut in my generation. I mean, we did. Our family, we worked out of our house. We're entrepreneurs. We had 2 or 3 businesses going out of our homes. You know, not just the renters that we had in the mother-in-law apartment, but also literally our bookkeeping and our main administrative staff was always in our homes that we owned and ran businesses out of. We had kids. It was practical. We had a nanny there. We had work happening. So childcare for parents right now is at a crisis level. They cannot. And what happens to the economy? She was pointing out the facts. We've lost those employees because what's happening now is people are staying home. They're men or women staying home to take care of their children, and those people are not in the workforce. We all are at a loss because their brains, their acumen is not feeding our economy. It's a crisis. It really is, and this, you know, pandemic has really shown us a lot about it. I mean, 9 million women, I heard one statistic, went out of the workforce during pandemic, and only 4 million have come back. Wow. So, yeah, to have a thriving, happy workforce, you have to have several things. You have to have their families taken care of. You have to have them not worrying about what's going on with their kids. Very important. You have to have business opportunities, like literally you have to be able to have them see the growth potential within that company. If they can't see that, you know, women don't see that quite often, or people of color don't see that quite often. So those, you know, everybody's asking me, you know, I'm the founder of the Diversity Center of Seattle, Washington. Jean, how can we get more women back to work? How can we get more, you know, people of color? I'm like, really? Like, here's the things that we all need, what they need, what they're asking for. Opportunity to grow within your company, being seen for who they are. Let's start with something very basic, people's names. You know, that's been the biggest criticism that I've heard. She'll never win. She's got that name. Honestly, Jean Iannelli Craciun, you got a problem with that? I don't know. I think that's kind of old school politics thinking. You have to be a Smith or a Jones or, yeah, that's what they were saying. So that was the one criticism. The other is that I'm diversity, equity, and inclusion oriented. Now, what does that mean? That means that I have spent a lot of time as a sociologist studying DEI. And some people are tired of that. And I say to them, to me, when I look at the very essence of diversity, equity, inclusion, it sounds a lot like liberty and justice for all. And what do you not like about that?
Back to the child care crisis just for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the city can do?
Well, most places that I've known that have cracked the nut have provided it right in the workplace. Might help get people even back to the empty buildings. If your lower levels actually had professionals brought into the buildings, that was something many of the healthcare organizations that I was familiar with did. They, bring healthcare into these empty buildings. The employees are upstairs, their kids are downstairs. Provide it in close proximity. Provide it in pathways to and from work. I mean, you've got to think it through. You can't just, people can't go way over here and then they're going to work over there. And they also have to know that their children are safe and the environment is safe and the the food is safe, and all those factors. There's a beautiful, in South Park, there's many child care organizations there. And so, but what are the issues that people might have over there in South Park, or even Georgetown, where some of the more rich cultural groups live in my District 1? Air pollution is a problem there. Beautiful food, beautiful family structures, but we've got this sort of looming, climate issue there. So we get something somewhere and lose something somewhere. We're trying to put the whole package together, but I think we could have many different variations on childcare. We could continue to bring some into the home where there are many Black and Indigenous peoples who have a lot of childcare facilities. I know that because I'm part of the King County Gathering Collaborative, which is Race as a Health Crisis. And what we're doing the last few weeks is we're working on evaluating grants that are giving to those two communities $25 million for businesses that are working to end race as a health crisis. And so I'm seeing these businesses, and there are many childcare businesses in those populations. They have a great interest in care of children, and we need to support that and bolster that and help with the monetary needs of those. We know those are the lowest paid. Why has that always been the case? If you care for children, that's the lowest paid? Come on. Is it just that it's women's work? Is it just that we're supposed to be home caring for our children? Why is that the case? I just can't understand it. I never will understand it. Women's work that is paid less. I've always been an advocate for equal pay, and not only that, comparable worth. If someone's doing a job that is the same as a man and a woman, that should be comparable. And I'll tell you, when I studied some of the city demographics, I saw a gender gap. I literally did. And it was a little disappointing. I was brought in to do the speech for the International Women's Day. It was internal only. It started to just be through their internet. And so we, the Diversity Center, myself, two other colleagues that were engaged with me, and actually we ended up bringing on a third colleague, two Black women, and then a non-binary person to be part of the International Women's Day presentation that I did. And it went so well that they ended up putting it on the Seattle channel, so people can see that now. If you look up the International Women's Day speech by Diversity Center of Seattle, you'll see myself and my colleagues. And it was talking about these issues, for certain. It was talking about the differences and the race issues. We have to really get focused back down on the basic issues of liberty and justice for all. We can't continue, talking to some of the politicians in office. I said, so what is it? What is the biggest problem? Why, people say nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? You know what they say? Income inequity. I'm like, wow, that's what you're telling me. You're sitting politician. This is the summary. Well then, okay, let's get on with that. Let's get on with the work there to bring the lowest up higher, those with the least a little more. Let's step aside, let's share. We know how to do that. Let's not be savior syndrome. Let's be supportive. Communities know what they need and want. Let's be respectful and ask them what they need and want, and then provide that in equitable fashion. In all regards, in housing, in safety, in mental health. I'm so happy we've passed the crisis center. That's like, yes, crisis. We needed that terribly, and now we have that. But there are many areas, the social housing, everything keeps going back to the main grounding issues, that there is the disparity that we have to deal with. And it's not in a handout. It's in a let's get everybody fair employment. Let's equalize the playing field for all people. If we could get everybody on an equal playing field, we can see people thrive. Have you ever done that, where you actually bring people in that they've said can't do something, and you bring them to work on a project together, and then you watch them all of a sudden grow and get excited and engaged? And this is possible. I've seen it many times in the businesses I've owned. But honestly, some of the things that we have been dealing with really require action now. We have studied them a lot. There's a lot of solutions that are sitting in front of us, and we need to move forward with what we know to be true.
In closing, it seems though that you seem optimistic though.
I am. I am, because again, I intentionally moved my young family here. So I do believe, again, people are watching us around the country. All the great minds, all the forward thinkers, all the innovation is really here. This is the place. We try things, we explore things, we struggle through things. We are actually not just sitting around complacent about them. And so because of that, I am here and I am hopeful. And when I talk to people from other states that I know, they think they don't have a race problem. We know we have race problems. They think they don't have, that healthcare is just, those people, just keep going to the ER. I'm like, well, let's make sure they have other healthcare options. ER is the most expensive. We know that. Let's tell the public about that. So all these issues, we can't just try to fix people. We can't be the savior syndrome. That is so white people. And we're so, good Catholic. I'm a good Catholic girl, grew up, all Catholic schools. But at the same time, it's that notion that I learned in Alaska, teach somebody how to fish versus just giving them a fish. People want to work. People want to take care of their families. People want to have some comforts, creature comforts. It's not there when it's not a balanced experience for everybody. And as a pragmatist, I can look to the facts and I can see it's right there, the inequity. Okay, here's where we need to lift up. Like we're doing with that King County project, which is very grounded in authentic community engagement. The committee is people from those lived experiences, and the solutions are exciting.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you. I've totally enjoyed this.